What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and in this video I'm going to take a look at the creator's Tempesta, which I would say is one of the most anticipated cars of this update. The main reason why I say that is this thing definitely looked pretty insane when I first saw this car in the trailer, and luckily guys, getting this vehicle, you will get it for free at level 37, and well, we all know how leveling up the pass now is going to be insanely easy, so I would say a lot of players are going to be able to get this vehicle and really test this thing out, but when it comes to customizing it, I did notice there really isn't all that much you can actually do to it. Also, guys, I do want to know, by the way, in the comments below, what car do you guys think this thing is actually primarily based on? I'm still honestly trying to figure this out. From the front of the car, I was kind of getting like the SSC2 or Terra vibe from it, but to be honest, I really don't know what this car actually resembles. I do want to know what you guys think in the comments below, but there isn't much you can actually do to this vehicle when it comes to customization. I mean, the regular stock rims on this car probably look better than all the rims that are in the game at the moment. I mean, like, what is that? But moving over, you can also do the caliper colors, the rear wing as well, which is kind of cool. So you can actually throw this thing on there. Not really sure how I feel about this wing, but it doesn't look bad. I just feel like it might look better without it. Also, the back of this car is very interesting looking anyway, but besides that, guys, you can also do the interior of the vehicle as well, which I'll probably leave that stock. I mean, look how insane the interior of this vehicle looks, like all that carbon fiber. And one of the first things I noticed when I drove this car is going to be that steering wheel. Like, I'm not really too sure how I feel about that if that wasn't an actual vehicle, but I will take a closer look at this interior here in a quick second. But overall, guys, I feel like this car is going to be insanely cool looking, even though it is very interesting looking at the same time. From driving this thing for a little bit, I have a feeling the Tempesta is going to be an insanely good vehicle, but nonetheless though, let's go take an outside look of this vehicle right now and also do a quick top speed test. Then I also do want to test this thing out in one of the hypercar events. And now spawning outside here with the Tempesta, so for this vehicle guys, I did actually want to head over to the salt flats once again because I do feel like this is one of the best places to actually do like the overall top speed test on these vehicles. Plus I really do love the lighting over here. So I did mention earlier I'm still trying to figure out what this vehicle really does resemble, but regardless, I would say for an actual like creator's vehicle in the game, I actually kind of like this thing. I really do like the rims there, plus the overall body design does actually look pretty awesome. What's kind of interesting too is, as I did mention earlier from the testing I have done, I have a feeling this car is actually going to be pretty good, but let's take a listen to that engine. Now, one thing I also do want to point out as well, guys, the first thing I actually noticed about the Tempesta is going to be the engine sound, which is going to sound insanely similar to many of the Ferraris. Now, I wouldn't say this car is going to sound exactly like the Ferraris, but it's definitely kind of close. What's kind of funny is it kind of reminds me of the Proto Lucky One, how that car basically sounds like a Bugatti. It even has the exact same like nitrous entry as well, so that's kind of hilarious. But moving over to the interior, guys, I did want to take a closer look at this. So one of the first things I noticed in this car is going to be the steering wheel. I don't really hate it, but I also feel like it's kind of odd looking. You also can't see the dash either, so if you guys are in first person mode, you will not be able to look at like the actual information of your speed and all that good stuff, which is kind of unfortunate, but this thing is supposed to be insanely unique in that aspect, which I see a lot of carbon fiber in this thing as well, so it's definitely going to be unique at least in that way. I really do like the material of this interior as well. Like, it does look pretty cool. I do also feel like a lot of players might not actually like the interior in this vehicle as well because it's definitely going to be kind of odd looking compared to everything else. What's kind of funny is it does kind of remind me of the Proto Lucky One with how that car did look, but to be honest, I kind of like the interior in that car just a little bit more. And one thing as well, guys, if you do actually drive this thing in first person, when you do turn the wheel, it can definitely mess up like your driving vision just a little bit. So I have a feeling this is going to be one of those cars that most players are going to use in third person. But now let's go see what the top speed of the Tempesta is actually going to be. So as I did mention before, this car is going to sound similar to a Ferrari. What's also kind of funny, guys, is the fact that it's going to be very high revving as well. So it looks like we're going to have another version of a Ferrari here in the game, which is kind of cool because we really haven't seen many of those touched in a while. especially in the hypercar class. So at least we will now have the Tempesta here that's kind of similar to those. What's also interesting though is from driving this car for a little bit, I would also say the Tempesta might actually be one of the new best cars in the hypercar class. The main reason why I say that is mainly because of the handling this car has, plus it also has a very impressive top speed as well, which I will show here in a quick second. As you guys will see with Nitro Chemist, this car is going to hit around 313 miles per hour, basically the exact same top speed as the Porsche 918 Silvery Edition, so this thing's going to be insanely quick. But not only is it going to be very fast with a pretty impressive top speed, even higher than the McLaren 765, which is kind of hilarious, but this car is also going to have very good handling and stability as well, which is most likely going to make it one of the better hypercars in the game. I also feel like many players might actually start running this vehicle over some of the others. I might even need to test this vehicle out against some of the Bugattis to really see how it handles against those. Obviously the Bugattis are going to be a little bit faster when it comes to the overall top speed, but being honest guys, I would say one of the biggest things to look at with the hypercars is definitely going to be their handling. So from the testing I have done with the Tempesta so far, I would honestly say this is going to be many players' favorite new car. Not only that though guys, at least everybody can also get this thing unlocked as well by doing the motor pass, so all you really have to do is actually hit level 37, and then you can start testing this vehicle out if you would like to. So one of the biggest things I noticed when driving this car though is the fact that it's going to have insanely good handling and stability. What's kind of insane to me is I would actually use the Tempesta over the recently released 765LT as well. I would even go as far as saying the Tempesta is probably going to be a better overall car basically in every single way. I mean, the handling and stability of this vehicle just seems to feel a lot better. Going over hills and going over like bumps and stuff, this car wouldn't want to spin out like the 765 did. So I have a feeling a lot of players are most likely going to pick this vehicle because the handling and stability, guys, is going to be one of the most important things with the hypercars in the Crew 2. I have noticed many of the cars definitely seem to struggle with that, especially the Bugattis. Even though they're going to be insanely fast, my goodness, they are not the funnest thing to drive at higher speeds. I was noticing with the Tempesta, this car really does give you lots of confidence everywhere, flying around corners and or like entering the corners depending on how you guys do. Like I feel like the car is going to basically be there for you when you need it to be. Even trying to dodge different cars and stuff on the road at higher speeds, I found this car to be insanely good. Now one of the other big positives about the Tempesta is going to be its speed, so some of the hypercars are kind of odd. Like one thing I noticed with the 765LT is going to be the way the car held its overall speed. So I noticed once you guys hit like 250 to like 260 miles per hour, I noticed that car tends to struggle to go higher than that. Now of course you could use Nitro Chemist, and what's kind of funny is the actual like main top speed on every single hypercar is like 278 besides the Super Sport 300 plus, so I'm not really too insanely shocked like the car might struggle, but even compared to something like the Tempesta, this thing will do around 15 miles per hour or more faster as a top speed, so that is going to be a plus. And I was noticing getting this vehicle to a higher speed seemed to be easier. I noticed with the 765, for example, guys, I would have to use a lot of nitrous to basically keep that car to around 285 or so I do think that's going to be a bit of an issue with it. But then again, I feel like a lot of players are most likely going to use the McLaren Senna over the 765 for good reasoning as well. That car is still going to be insanely good, but I have a feeling the new car in the block is by far going to be the creator's Tempesta. This thing is honestly insanely impressive, guys, with the way it handles and the stability that it does have. Not only that though, it's going to have a very impressive top speed, so I feel like this car is going to have an actual package with it where you can really use it on everything. You guys could run this car in like a summit or something like that and probably get a really good score. Then you can also jump on to some of the way longer events in the game like the Detroit race or something, and or the Dallas one, which is going to be the longer races. This thing can still average around 300 miles per hour very easily, which is funny because it is going to make it faster than many of the other hypercars in the game, because I did notice many of them do like 295 to like 298 miles an hour, so that's instantly going to make this car faster in that aspect. And if you throw in really good handling in there as well, it's going to be very hard to pick other vehicles. I've also been seeing around as well, is the new Tempesta going to be like the new quote-unquote meta vehicle in the hypercar class? And well, from the testing I have done, I would probably say that's not going to be too insanely far-fetched. Like, if we're talking overall packages with these vehicles on how good they actually are, I would say the Tempesta is probably going to be a way better option than like 70% of the hypercars in the game at the moment. I would honestly really like to see some type of handling update like on the hypercars and or the street vehicles. The main reason why I would say a handling model update on many of the hypercars and or street cars would be a good idea is because I feel like a lot of the older vehicles in the game that many players don't use anymore, it might make them a little bit better and actually make them more stabilized when you're actually racing. I really do feel like that's going to be the one biggest flaw with the Bugattis, for example, is how they actually handle at higher speeds. I know these cars are going to be insanely fast, guys, but to be honest, I really don't enjoy driving them like I used to. The main reason why is I feel like the way they basically lose themselves over like a tiny little hill, it's going to make them a lot harder to drive. I've actually been finding myself driving the 918 Silvery Edition a lot more. I just feel like from the testing I have done with the Tempesta and actually recently driving the Silvery Edition a lot more often, I really do feel like these cars are going to give a lot of players a lot more confidence when they're racing, which is always going to be a good thing. And I also feel like many players are most likely searching for this as well because they probably don't want to run a Bugatti in a Summit. And now that we're finally getting newer vehicles in the game that can easily compete with them, I really do think is going to mix up the overall variety in this game tremendously, guys. Like, I really don't drive the Bugattis as much as I used to. I've been driving the 918, I've been jumping into like the KTM GTX, and I'm definitely planning on trying out the Tempesta more in the future as well. Like, I think these cars are a lot of fun, and they're definitely plenty fast to use them on bigger events as well. And if you guys do want to farm races for money and or followers, or maybe going after different part sets, I feel like these cars are also going to be really good. And not only can you farm stuff with them, you can also jump into the Summit and still go against some of the better cars in the game like the Bugattis and still easily get a great score. So this is definitely going to be one of those cars I would highly recommend trying out if you guys were kind of on the fence with it. The creator's Tempest is definitely going to be a new fan favorite on the crew too, but let me know what you guys think about this car in the comments below. And I do want to know, by the way, again, what car do you guys think this thing is actually based on, at least primarily? But even then, I still think a lot of players are going to like the way this car looks, so I do have to give it to Ubisoft on how they are designing some of these creator vehicles. But anyway, guys, again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and here are the settings I'm currently running on this vehicle.